me try and explain what is this knowledge that we are talking about. What is it that makes us human? What is it that separates us from everything else? See, there was a time we were simply unconscious of ourselves and our bodies. We just lived just like animals. We had no conception of who we were, sense of individuality, sense of personality, nothing. So through some process, an individual spent a lot of time alone in isolation. See, when you spend time alone and begin to perceive the nature of reality around you and within you directly, instead of using some knowledge, you directly perceive things, a new reality emerges. We begin to realize that this is kind of a dreamy place. It's not a physical world that we live in. It's made up of dreams and ideas. And we are a part of that dreaming. And Hindu culture has always said that we are all the stuff of the dreaming of the great mind. And Native Americans always refer to it as the Great Spirit. I mean, there is no ancient culture that has not believed in something beyond the physical. In fact, that is what gives them their identity. Egyptians, I mean, what is Egyptian civilization if not for the belief in afterlife and belief that, okay, our life continues, that there is something beyond all these things. See, this idea that something exists apart from the physical is the foundation of all our knowledge. And those individuals who realize this experientially become our teachers. It's the same with Jesus, same with Buddha, same with Mahavira, same with all the awakened teachers. They take birth normally. They pass through the normal womb, and every birth is a normal birth. What is that? You cannot take birth without... There was one church father who said, the birth of Christ was so special that he flowed through the fallopian tube like the way the water flows, and it did not affect the mother at all.
Her hymen remained intact.
Her hymen remained intact.
Okay. So she had a C-section or something. A C-section in the manger? Sure, why not?
That's probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Don't get him started on the virgin birth.
Everybody takes birth normally through the same process. And then they begin to seek that knowledge. A few individuals separate themselves from the daily noise and commotion of life, and they try to seek this knowledge. And there were always spiritual schools that were imparting this knowledge. For example, Jesus himself was a part of the Essene community. It was one of the largest spiritual communities. I mean, they lived in the caves, they lived in the desert. They had an elaborate system of teaching spirituality, and he was a part of that school. And that's where he understood the meaning of, all the things that he says. In fact, the poem that you sing about the Father, there's one poem you recited, right? There's one very important Christian...
Our Father which art in heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is an Essene community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the fundamental knowledge has always been about how to find this truth, how to seek this within. And when an individual finds it, he begins to teach it, he begins to share it, and then slowly people start gathering, and that becomes a separate community. And there were no universal religions, there were no world global religions before. Hundreds and hundreds of small communities where this stream of knowledge began to flow as people started to travel. That is where we say there's one source, one individual who realized it first. And it's a biggest mystery, how did he realize it? Because where are the scriptures? Because they say without the support of the scriptures, it is impossible to find this source of knowledge. Because you have to spend enormous amounts of time in silence. And what is his motivation to remain silent? But this is where the mystery is, and it has always remained a mystery, and it is good that it remains a mystery. It is something for individuals to discover within. There are some things we can only experientially realize it within, not going back or into the future. Intuitively, we can feel it inside, how things are functioning. From there, people started teaching this, and the fallout of this knowledge, this ultimate source of knowledge, is what created this elaborate civilization, human civilization that we talk about. Because the center of all civilizations is this knowledge. And what is this knowledge? It is the knowledge of enlightenment, knowledge of awakening, knowledge of self-realization, knowledge that can reveal your true nature to yourself, knowledge that can break the bondage of the mind and the body. That is why Buddha calls it, this is a knowledge that takes away suffering. That is why Jesus says, this is the knowledge that removes death itself. See, finally, why have people been seeking this knowledge? It's because we know life is painful. We know body is painful. We know mind is painful. We can try and cover up this pain in multiple ways. I mean, America in that sense, don't mind me saying this, is a perfect example of how beautifully you can cover up pain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's really one of the most painful countries in the world because people don't have that sense of connectivity either to themselves or to their land or to their ancestors. Think about it. A bunch of people who just came here a few hundred years ago, I mean, no connection to this land whatsoever. They began to just live and flourish, and superficiality has become an entire civilization here. That's where the whole problem is. It is not just few individuals who have lost their way, it's the whole community. And if America loses its way, the whole world will follow. Because all the rest of the world can see,
Sad.
no, they will follow because, because looking at an American and being at an American are two completely different things. When you don't experience an American life, you are far away. You're just looking at the lifestyle, you're looking at the fancy cars, you're looking at the comforts, you're looking at all these things. There's this immense longing, oh, I want to have this life. I don't want to be struggling like this. Let me at least get to that point where I can enjoy these luxuries. But once they actually are able to get to that point, then they'll realize it's so hollow. There is no meaning, there is no depth to life here, because depth comes from this knowledge of understanding ourselves. Depth is not in what we possess or how much we possess, isn't it? Just because we've been able to successfully cover it up, fancy gadgets, fancy language and fancy way of living, doesn't mean that the pain has disappeared. In fact, it's like that wound that doesn't heal. The more you conceal it, the more time it takes to heal. That is what every American is. There is a wound, but you cover it up. At least if you let it open, if you share it with people, if you are open enough, if you say, cry when you want to cry, laugh when you want to laugh, just be yourself. Why are you faking your entire life? I mean, we just don't want to be ourselves with people. Complete mask, a facade, or a facade, however you pronounce it. Well, a facade and a facade are too far away, aren't they? Hello, but I came up with facade.
You did. You did good.
It's just a facade. And the pain is of not knowing. Not knowing, what is all this? Where do we come from? Why are we here in this strange land? What are we doing? And you cannot reach out to people around. I mean, storytelling culture is gone. Respect for elders is gone. So what do you rely on? You rely on the internet god, Google. Everything is Google. I mean, they can replace Google with God.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. But the nourishing aspect of spirituality, understanding of the mind, understanding of the body. See, there's one whole ocean of understanding, wealth of understanding that is hidden within us. If we decide to step away from all our knowledge and experiences and try and experience life moment to moment, really the only way to go beyond stress, pain, worry, frustration, the only way is to try and be in the present moment. And the oldest stream of knowledge is meditation. Words have only been around it. The oldest unspoken, spoken, this has been the language of humanity. How do you find your way through silence? How do you find your way through stillness? How do you exist? That has been the most ancient stream of knowledge.